Lotto for search 3 neutral.
Hello YouTube, we got another video. This time it is going to be on the meta, or what I think is what a lot of people are going to be running, the decks that are going to be really powerful, and they're just going to be very, very powerful. And not only that, we're going to talk about cards that I think people are going to start running that can open up a lot more combos for them, or some cards that I don't think are worth it. With it, we're only talking about a couple of decks. We got Fusions, Medolces, Sylvians, Monarchs, Shaddolls, and Spell Knights. We're going to be talking about those decks. What we're also going to be doing is we're going to be discussing how they compare to the 3 decks that I normally run, which would be my Fire and Ice and Stun deck, my Relinquish deck, and my Saddle deck. So you have 2 rogue decks, one's anti-meta, the other is just kind of a loss, and then you have the meta deck Shaddolls. So we're going to be talking about how they go against those. But yet note, this is all in my opinion. Before I begin, let's look at those 3 decks that I run, just so that way you guys have an idea of what they look like. So here's my Fire and Ice and Stun deck. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it if you have any questions, but pretty much it's supposed to stun your opponent. And the main thing that tells me if I can win that duel or if I can't is whether or not I can Void Trap Wolf. Here's my Relinquish deck. Again, not going into too much detail, but yet if you know how some cards work, you might understand that it's no spells, no traps, no stuff, or something. That's how it works. So that's my Relinquish deck. Now on to my Shadow. You have, as you can see, a lot of Shadow cards, what you would expect to run. But there's also, I kind of built my Shadow deck to be able to go well and beat another Shadow deck. That's one thing that I kept in mind. So you might see some cards that might fit a Shadow player, or that you wouldn't expect a Shadow player to be running. And so, let's go back to the discussion. And let's start off with the decks that are already out, being first Fusions. Pretty much the deck works by summoning Yamato first turn. That's pretty much how you if your opponent had a bad hand if they don't summon Yamato first turn. Getting cc Coliseum, and then using its effect to dump either Hare or Turtle in the grave to protect them for at least a turn. Using that, your opponent can have more than one monster, which slows your opponent down, and Yamato probably won't be able to be destroyed because Turtle can negate an effect that would target him, and if you could dump Hare, he would be able to be affected by battle. So Yamato solutions work by slowing the game down and using all their cards to use to protect their monsters, and then when they go, they make their play. And so when you compare it against Relinquish, God, I hate Turtle. Fuck that card. No. Bad Turtle. Bad. Pretty much I have to have one more Relinquish than they have Turtles in trade. If they have 1 Turtle, I have to have 2 Relinquishes. If they have 2 Turtles, then I have to have 3 Relinquishes. Or at least 3 cards I can target and use them to use Bujingi Turtle up, so that way, when I go to Relinquish, they don't have a Turtle to protect Yamato. So it can be annoying. cc Coliseum can prevent me from using Tour Guide, and it's just a deck that can just normally beat Relinquish. Like, I rarely beat Fusions. Against my Fire and Ice and Stun deck, you hear me say this multiple times, but it's pretty much depending on what traps I get. If I get Breakthrough Skill, I have Breakthrough Skill. If I have Fire and Ice and I can destroy Bujingi, I can destroy cc Coliseum. No, Bujingi Turtle cannot be activated during the damage step. So I can get past the Yamato. It just depends on what I have. If I have Solom, I have Solom. If I have Bottomless, I have Bottomless. Get the deck, I can avoid him. They're Bujingi 1 his face. I can be able to stun them. I can be able to prevent them from being able to make their plays. Yet if they decide to sit on Yamato, I might not be able to unless they decide to crash a Fire Hand or an Ice Hand into it. And cc Coliseum can prevent me from getting out cards like C101 on a Dark. So it would be an interesting duel, but I think the Fire and Ice Hand deck would put up a decent fight and maybe even win. Against Shadow, pretty much what I have to say is super fucking poly everything. Except hair, because, well, you don't need to. Damn, that deck's good enough where if they summon anything, you might as well super poly it. Just back out of the deck, Swanson hit the field, super poly. Yamato hits the field, super poly. Just get rid of their cards if you're running Shadow. Now, Kids Coliseum can hurt Shadows. They don't swarm as much as what you would think, but they do have plenty of backrow destruction, so it's not like it wouldn't be impossible to get rid of, because facing the Shadow is pretty much an MST if you use it right. And then if they do have Quanto, you can use Shadow Fusion to send from the grave, to send from the deck, and so you have. So I think Shadows would be able to easily beat Fusion. The only real card that would be annoying is if Hair only protects one, so they could use Hair on Swanso, then use Swanso to attack. Swanso won't be destroyed by Nephilium, and then they can use Crane to boost its attack. So there's a variety of plays that they can make to get past some of the really tricky cards. And I don't think Midrash would hit them too much, because they could pretty much what they need is that just that one special summoning, and that could be what, and then they could go off. And the deck, these guys, Illusions really like Vanity's Emptiness. I've seen some really painful Illusion decks that main it, and so it would be a very interesting duel against them. Now onto our next duel, we have Madolches. Madolches work by swarming the field, getting out a lot of monsters, and then pulling out Tiramisu, which can send 2 Madolches back to their hand, or back to the deck technically. If you have Chateau on the field, it goes back to the hand, and then without targeting, send 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field to the hand. So it's really hard to get around Tiramisu, because she sends the 2, okay, she detaches, target the 2 cards in the graveyard, that's when you respond. And anything you were to do except negate her effect, that she'd just be able to work around that. If you would, to let's say like summon something, she would be able to target that card then, instead of not be able to, like with how if you were to summon when your opponent activates 101, you, and 101 would just fizzle out here. And Tiramisu is really hard to make her fizzle out. And so the deck's really good. Against Relinquish, it just depends on who gets 4 presence first. If I can gin them and prevent them from special summoning and activating spells, it gives me a huge advantage where they can't really do much besides Fire and Ice Hand, which is what gives Madolches and the edge over Bruises. Because before, I went to regionals less than 24 hours after Dragon's Legend came out, and at that time, Bruises were the deck to beat. Bruises were the deck to play or to beat, and or to beat. And so Madolches, they were there, but yet they weren't too much of a threat. Everybody wanted to beat Bruises more. And then Fire and Ice Hand came out, and Madolches got the ability to get rid of Case Coliseum, which means they now have more power. They are now a really stronger deck. And so, against Relinquish, they could use Fire and Ice Hand. Against Fire and Ice Hand, I told you guys in this other video, I ranked up a Tiramisu after Bottomless one, Compulsing another, and Breakthrough Scaling at the 3rd one. And that was all in one turn. So I got lucky with the traps there. I got really lucky with the draws. And again, my Fire and Ice Hand is pretty much an anti-meta deck. If I have Dark 5, then I can stop Chateau, which can really stop some big plays for a Madolche player. If I have Solemn Warning, I can Solemn Warning. If I don't, then I don't. But I normally have enough back row, or cards, yeah, enough back row where the Madolche Tiramisu might not want to get rid of my set cards. They might just want to get rid of the back row because, well, nobody likes D-Prison. So I would probably still be able to Fire and Ice Hand my opponent, and then would probably slow them down a little bit. And against Shadows, the main thing that the Madolches have right now is that they can't be super powered, which really hurts for Shadow players. Now Shadow can restrict their special summoning to 1, which definitely hurts middle just definitely hurts them. Be it my deck combos with Secret Village, so that hurts them even more. So I think the Shadow player would still have some outs and ways to restrict, be it there wouldn't be a lot of punishing that normally Shadows do. It would be more along the lines of restricting the opponent from special summoning. It would be more along lines of using Midrash than Nephilium. And so that's how a Dolce Duel would go out with my 3 decks. Then we'll go on to Sylvians. And the reason I put Sylvians on here is because they are a versatile deck that have cards such as Marshall Leaf and Kagamushu, if I'm pronouncing that right. The mushroom person that can destroy monsters and spells respectively, and can really get what they need to the hand. They can be really consistent. Yet the other thing that puts them on this list is the fact that they can make Quasar Dragon. And not only can they make Quasar Dragon, they can make Divine Dragon Knight. One of the best XP monsters and the best Synchro monsters. They have access to that for days. And Quasar can just shut down any deck because he's a 4,000 meter that can negate stuff. They could probably pull out 2 real easily, because they can pull out 1 first turn, and then if they draw into another Soul Charge, because you're pretty much not going to do anything to the life points if they have Quasar sitting on the field. They're just gonna be able to pull out more than 1. And then with Divine Dragon Knight, he can just protect himself and continuously run in. So Sylvians have a lot of powerful cards that they can get that you wouldn't expect. Well, they'll plan. So you would expect them to pull out Quasar. That Quasar would be hard to beat. I mean, like, they have just such a wide arsenal of weapons. And then they have Mount Sylvania, which can allow them to check the top cards of their deck, put it on the bottom, or on the top, or if it's plants and engrave it, which can give them some really decent effects. And against Relinquished, I can prevent them from special summoning and activating spells that Motion Leaf and Komushu can still go through. It can still get rid of Relinquished, which will hurt. It slow them down, and it would just depend on whether or not they can get out of play. Now, if against the Fire and Ice and Stun deck, it really depends if I have the cards to stop them from making a play. If they pull out Quasar, Fire and Ice isn't going to amount to much. But if I can Solemn Warning or Break the Skill or something, then I'll be able to reduce some cards in their hand maybe, or just outright prevent them from getting a Quasar Dragon. Against Shadow, I'd say that there'd be a chance because I can Super Poly Quasar Dragon, and Quasar Dragon just cannot respond. And same with Divine Dragon Knight, you cannot activate, card effects cannot be chained to Super Poly. So I feel Shadows have the out against these more than any other deck. If you look at Madolches, Quasar can stop Madolches. Divine Dragon Knight can be unaffected or can just outright negate Tiramisu. And against Illusions, Illusions could slow down. Sylvians, mainly with Cave of Colosseum, and cards to keep Yamato alive. But with Cover Mushroom and Martian Leaf, they might have some outs. On to the next deck, we have Monarchs. I put Monarchs on here because they have a variety of cards that can get rid of monsters that really your opponent can't do anything with. And that being Soul Exchange and Monarch Stormforce. Really, the best way to get rid of your opponent's monsters is to tribute them. It is also one of the slowest ways to get rid of them. That's why you don't see it. So now they have this quick play spell card. Well, why would you need to tribute? How would you be able to tribute your opponent's monster during their turn? Well, now you have Escalation of the Monarch. So now they can summon, they can activate this, activate a Monarch Stormforce, and then activate Escalation of the Monarch, and get rid of your opponent's monsters. And I really dislike Monarchs, mainly because Relinquish doesn't do anything to them. Monarchs don't special summon very much now. They mainly work by tributing your opponent's monsters and pulling out cards like Majesty Fiend or Vanity Fiend to slow the game down. And with a variety of Monarchs themselves that can make your opponent start top decking the exact same card turn after turn, can really hurt the opponent. So if your Monarchs again put up a decent fight, will be able to get past a lot of different things, and a lot of decks that punish or try to stop your opponent from special summoning these people will just be able to walk right through. So I feel Monarchs are going to be a really decent deck. Against Fire and Ice Hand, it'd be interesting. If they have Majesty Saint out on the field, then I can use Fire Hand and Ice Hand, which slows me down. They can get rid of Fire Hand and Ice Hand by tributing them, or by just using the Monarchs effects themselves to banish or return to the top of the deck. So it would be very hard for me to be able to get rid of them. I might be able to break through skill or Solemn, or I wouldn't be able to avoid them, and I wouldn't be able to trap trick, trap hold, nightmare them. So I'd have to side in trap hold. So it would be, I'd feel they'd be able to win. Now with the Shaddolls mainly punish and restrict for special summoning. So again, they're unaffected by that. Mid-Rush would not be a good idea to go into. Yet you could super poly cards like Majesty Saint and Case, which would be interesting. Yet any card that Shadow player would be able to pull out, they'd just be able to get rid of it with Monarch Storm 4. And so it would be a very, very interesting duel, but I feel that Monarchs would put up a decent fight and maybe even win against Shaddolls. Which would be strange to say, but I feel Monarchs are just that good of a deck with how they can get rid of monsters and just stop your opponent's plays. And so now we go on to Shaddolls themselves. Shaddolls work by, as I said, restricting and punishing your opponent from special summoning. But the main thing that makes Shaddolls so nice is that all of them have effects on the field and in the grave. That creates these two areas that your opponent has to get rid of, the grave and the field. And with that becomes really hard because a lot of people cannot just run Defissure Soul Drain. Not going to see a Boujon people run Soul Drain or Defissure, nor will you see a Madolche player do that, nor a Sylvian. You might see a Monarch player, which gives them advantage. If you have access to Soul Drain or Defissure, you have a really decent advantage. But Shaddolls work by using that control of the graves and just to take control of the field. What they also have is the best trap card in the game ever, being Super fucking Poly. It is the best trap. But Waffles, that's a spell card. No, it's a quick play spell card. That's how good of a trap it is. It can be activated during your turn, from the hand. Imagine if this was a pink card that just said you can activate this card from the hand. It's just that good. That good of a trap card. The opponent can't activate anything in response. They can't Solemn. They can't Solemn it. They can't Warning it. It's just that good. It gets rid of the card on the field and you get a card. So you send one card on your side of the field and one on your opponent's side of the field, and you get a card. And if you're going up against Shadows, you can send two cards from the other side of the field, I believe, and get a card. So it's just amazing. And if you, against mirror matches, if you're Super Poly, would just be crazy. Because both players would be like, oh, you're gonna summon Mid-Rush? Okay, Solemn. Super Poly. Your two cards that you have on the field to give me Nephilim or a Mid-Rush myself. But as you saw from my deck, I run different cards than what you would expect. And so I feel as a shadow deck against my shadow deck should have some advantage, mainly because I have Gaia Drake. I can pull Gaia Drake out, and Gaia Drake cannot be targeted or destroyed by monster effects, and he's a 35 beta, so he runs over Nephilim, he runs over Mid-Rush. What else? I run Mathematician, and which can give me some more draw power, but which can also prevent them from being able to super polish, as I could get off some effects from some Shadow effects while they might not be able to super polish Mathematician. Yet, what makes Shadows so great is that they're uber consistent. For example, if you look at Duality or Upchuck Island, it's one card for one card. Even, right? Yet if you look at Feast, it's not really one card for one card. It tends to be a plus. Normally because if you would use Mathematician to send Lizard, so you're using one card to put one card in the grave, that then puts another card in the grave. So then there's a +1, but then you get a draw card. You just got rid of two cards from your deck, and now you're drawing a card, which becomes really nice for Shaddolls. And then with Falcon, like, you can't just say how many pluses you got off of that one beat. It's just impossible to tell. So literally, what Shaddolls have that a lot of other decks don't have is that they have the ability to run, I'd say, up to 45 cards in their deck and still be consistent enough and be able to have less cards in their deck than a player that's just running 40. They're just that consistent, they deck in enough, and they just win over that consistency. Now, against their Relinquish deck, I'd be able to prevent them from Special Summoning, and with Secret Village, be able to prevent them from activating their spells unless they summon the Shadow, because all Shadows are spellcasters. So, be able to prevent them from Special Summoning, yet they'd still have access to Dragon, because they could dump them some other way, like such as Mathematician, dump Dragon, and destroy the card equipped to Relinquish, and then run over him. Then they have a Lizard himself that can destroy Relinquish. So, there's a variety of ways to get over him, but yet, the opponent might not be able to think that. And there's been a couple of duels where I've been able to run Relinquish, and they just don't do that because, well, they don't realize. Which is one thing that's great about running a rogue deck, is that you can kind of expect your opponent to misplay. Against my Fire and Ice Hand stun deck, they can Super Poly Fire Hand to go into Ego Crystal, which could be annoying, but I could be able to prevent them from summoning some monsters. I could use Breakthrough Skill on Midrash. I won't be able to Fire Hand Midrash, which would be annoying, but I could be able to do some of my own. And I guess, technically, if I wanted to be really competitive, I could run Super Poly in my Fire and Ice and Stun deck and just side an Ego Crystal. That would be so annoying and so funny. Not even running Shadows, he's just gonna side an Ego Crystal. For those of you who don't know, he requires a Shadow monster and a Fire monster, so technically, if you have Fire Hand on your side of the field and Fun has, like, let's say, a Nephilim, you can Super Poly and go into Ego Crystal. So, guess that's a possibility for a side deck choice for my Fire and Ice and Stun deck. As for a lot of other decks, as you can see up here, I'd say they'd be able to beat Fusion. Well, I'd say that it'd be a decent fight. And I've already talked about all of these with Shadows, and so no point in going over again. The Tellarknight. Now, I haven't done too much work on them, but the thing that gives the Tellarknights such an advantage is, one, they're swarming, they have some burn damage, mainly in the fact that they take 1000 damage with that one Tellarknight, because when it's summoned, your opponent takes 1000 damage, which pretty much means one monster away from Soul Charge. But yet they have options to go into the Tellarknight Delta, which can destroy a monster, and then they also have Heroic Champion. And there are some builds that revolve from using both Heroic Champion and the Tellarknights to be able to make 86. And when this card hits the field, all decks only have one option: to just wait out, just to wait him out. Now, in a straight up Tellarknight deck, he'd only be at 3000, but he can still slow the game down and give the Tellarknight such an advantage to get such a board that the opponent might not be able to respond because they just couldn't make a move for the past couple of turns. But Dolce players that can't normal or special summon, they just lose. That, and they also have Celestial Factor. It gets rid of a card when a spell trap or monster effect is activated. They can get rid of one of your opponent's cards, get rid of one of your cards, and destroy it. And so that gives a huge advantage over my Fire and Ice Hand deck, because counter traps can be activated during the damage step, so if he were to attack into a Fire Hand, he'd be destroyed. If I were to target him, he could use Celestial Factor to get rid of him, draw a card, and then I don't get Fire and Ice Hand. I don't get Ice Hand for Fire. So they have that advantage. Against Relinquished, if I get worried to create and stop Celestial Factor, unless they chain that to it, so it just depends on who gets that on first. And with the Tellarknight, it is really good against again, if they were to face with Relinquish, I could hurt them really badly. I could hurt them badly, but yet they'd still have some outs. It depends on who has what cards. It should all, again, this is one of those cases where we have to super fucking poly everything. God. I'm not sure if he can be super polyed, if he has 3 or more. I'm not sure if you can super poly him. Because this card is unaffected by other card effects. Like if let's say you were running this and you activated polymerization for some reason to go into something. Other god Nolan or something. Could you use him? I think he can be super polyed no matter how many. Well, if your opponent has 4 or more, then your opponent can't special summon, but if he has just 3, then I think he can be super polyed. So I think Shadows, they get that advantage over the Tellarknights where they can super poly. And I feel any monster they pull out would have some trouble, because with Midrash, that would really hurt them from being able to get out all 3 blazing material for him. Even then, if you have both Nephilim and Midrash out, you're gonna have to get rid of Midrash, and then you can just run over him with Nephilim. And so so it'd be an interesting duel. Celestial Factor would be able to stop, let's say, Shadow Fusion, or El Shadow Fusion, or some monster effects. So they'd have their outs, and Shadows would have their outs. So I think it would be a really decent duel. So now let's go into cards that I think people might be checking in or be running. Let's start with Breakthrough Skill. We all know that Breakthrough Skill is going up in price and people start running it, mainly because of artifacts. You need that, because artifacts, they don't have those cards where your opponent's going to activate them once every turn. Like with High Priestess, your opponent's going to activate it in the turn it's summoned, and then the next turn. So Fiendish Chain was decent to get rid of boss monsters. But artifacts, they're activated when they're summoned. So Fiendishing will only stop 1, but then it's just a dead card because it's not going to be activated again. So Breakthrough Skill allows for that ability to negate an artifact once, and then can be banished again to negate another one. So it's going to be a card that a lot of people are going to start running, and it just kills Relinquish because Warlord Creek just cannot stop Breakthrough Skill if it's in the grave. It's just so annoying when Relinquish is negated, because then any monster can just run over him. Now as to artifacts, I don't think artifacts are worthwhile attacks unless you plan on running, let's say, at least 5 or more artifact monsters total. Because Ignatian, when this card was first released, everybody thought it was an upgraded MST. Because, well, if it was destroyed, the opponent skipped the battle phase. And it decks it. But yet, you have to run artifact monsters, so you can activate this if the artifact monster's in your hand, and you have no more in the deck. So so you have to run a decent amount of artifacts. And I've tried decks where you have to have cards in the deck, and when they're in the hand, it really hurts. So it can be a very annoying thing, and so I feel that you'd have to run a decent amount of artifacts. That, and it's such an artifact in your spell and trap card zone, so the opponent isn't going to MST that zone. Ever. You're going to have to MST that zone. So if you activate this, maybe destroy something, set Molotov, that could be very decent. You would have this card. You're going to be the one that has to MST it, if your opponent doesn't MST it during your turn before. Because these can only be activated, their effects can only be activated during your opponent's turn. So you're going to have to MST it, which is going to be too bad, because if they have a monster, you could turn an MST into like a fissure or something, pretty much, because he could destroy that monster. But I don't feel artifacts are a worthwhile tech. I don't think they're too good or too fast, but they're going to be a decent tech. Now if you really want to look at an upgraded MST, Ice and Firehand. This card, you don't need any card in your deck. You don't need Firehand in your deck to be able to activate it. You can still destroy, then special summon if there is one in your deck. So Ice and Firehand, they are really decent, and a lot of people are just going to be running these cards in their deck, because they can just, pretty much how Ice and Firehand works is that they reduce the amount of cards on the opponent's side of the field, keeping yours the same. No reason why anybody shouldn't like that. It would work well with the Tellarknights, because they only need 3 to level 4 monsters. So this could keep a level 4 monster on the field. Now because this is an Aqua and this is a Pyro, what I'm expecting people to run more is Potted Economy. Potted Economy is one card that allows you to draw 2 cards. Pot of Greed, right? Well, not exactly. You have to target 3 monsters with different types in your graveyard and shuffle all 3 into the deck. So technically, 1 card, send 3 back to the deck to draw 2. So your deck becomes 1 higher than what it was before you activated this. Now granted, you can target send XZ monsters, and if you do, you might be able to plus. But this is Falcor, so that's 2. You run it with Fusions, now you have a Beast Warrior and Beast, so you definitely can use this card. You run it with Marolchase. This guy has Marolchase has Warriors, Beasts, and Fairies, so they definitely can activate upon economy, but now it's even more likely because of Fire and Ice Hand. Sylvians are planned, so they can run Fire and Ice Hand and be able to plus. So it's gonna be a card that a lot of people are gonna start running. Even Monarchs will be able to run Product Economy. And with Fire and Ice Hand, it can create a monster that's on the field that can be tributed at any time. Same with the Tellarknights. The only deck that I wouldn't suggest running Fire and Ice Hand with is Shaddoll's, because there's just no point. You already destroy spells and trap cards easy enough. No point to add these guys too, unless you want to make Ego Crystal a lot. He's not the best of. But no, besides that, you're gonna see people start running Skullmeister. Now with my Relinquished deck, before Fire and Ice Hand came out, I was fighting in Soul Drain and D-Fisher. And when I started running Ice and Fire Hand, I realized those didn't work with Ice and Fire Hand. Then I found out about this card. Now in the TCG, you can activate this in the damage deck. In the OCG, you cannot. So there's a little bit of context as to the ruling, but it's very great for Fire and Ice Hand as an alternative to stop maybe a Brusion or a Marolchase card from going back to the deck, or maybe Martial Leaf or whatever. These can be a really decent card to stop a card in the grave with a hand trap. Well, you can still be able to run Fire and Ice Hand. So I think a lot of people are going to start having this in the side deck. Maybe like some people are citing the 1DD Crow, or run main 1DD Crow if they are going to a really competitive duel like YCS or something. Instead of that, people might be maining the 1 Skullmeister and having 1 or 2 on the side. Now it depends on monsters. This is one of the cards that I don't think is going to be a worthwhile tech, because let's look at it. In order to Pendulum Summon, you need to have 2 cards. Just 2 cards. Then you need to have a 3rd one to summon. So if you have, let's look at the TCG. You have 6 cards, 2 of them go into Pendulum Zone, 4 cards are left. So what are the chances that you're gonna have 4 monsters? None. Mainly what I see Pendulum Summoning is just bringing back Odd Eyes Dragon from the face up in the X deck. The only Pendulum deck, and I only saw this once, but I thought it was a really fun idea. The only Pendulum deck that actually really works where you can get out 5 monsters from Pendulum Summoning was a deck that ran nothing but Pendulum monsters. And because every time they were destroyed, they'd go back to the Pendulum deck, all you had to do was Pendulum Summon them again, and ta-da! They just come back. But then again, I destroyed his Pendulum Zones and he didn't have an out to that, so he lost. But otherwise, you're just gonna pretty much be bringing back Odd Eyes, and maybe in some special summoning another monster instead of normal summoning it. That's pretty much how Pendulum Summoning works to me. I don't think it's gonna be a worthwhile tech, because pretty much it turns any deck into a combo-based deck, and that just makes it too slow. Deep Prison, people are gonna start running Deep Prison. Like some people were running maybe 1 Mirror Force, 1 Deep Prison. People are gonna take out the Mirror Force for Deep Prison because of Soul Charge, and just to get rid of some cards, because a lot of cards they just disappear with their bans. So I feel that Deep Prison is gonna be a decent card, and with a variety of other cards such as Fire Hand and Ice Hand, they don't get their effects from their Deep Prison. So, and with Soul Charge being at 3, I wouldn't be surprised if Deep Prison went to 3. It's a way to combat it. And those are just a lot of cards I would hurt, but they were Deep Prison. Shaddolls just absolutely hate being Deep Prison, because then you just lose the card. And they have enough back row destruction where I think 3 Deep Prisons would be even. So I could see Deep Prison maybe going up to 3. Now when Supply Unit comes out, a lot of people are going to probably try to run Supply Unit, because you can plus off of this. quite a lot. Quite a lot. And so, supply unit is going to be a thing. So people are going to have to look at different ways to get rid of monsters that doesn't destroy them. So monarchs are going to have that huge advantage over supply unit where they can just get rid of monsters and not destroy them. And that's going to be another reason why Deep Prison could go up to 3. Next card is Mass Change Second. The thing that makes Mass Change Second so nice is that you don't have to target an element to hero. You can target any monster. And then special summon the Mass Hero that has the same attribute but a higher level. And the two that I think are really good is Darklaw. So any dark monster that's whose level is less than 6 can be summoned with him. And he's pretty much macro for your opponent. That's what makes him so good. And I suggest running him in a Shadow deck, just so that, because one, macro for your opponent hurts any deck. Yet, like, if Fusions are under macro, they can't do much. If Blood Ultras are under macro, they can't do much. Yet, because Darklaw only affects your opponent, Shaddoll still can be able to make their play and still get complete control of the grid. So, I feel that Shaddolls are going to be running Darklaw because, well, it hurts the other Shadow decks. Like, I run them in my Shadow deck because, and I'm going up against a Shadow deck, I want to be able to hurt them a lot. Now, the other mass heal would be Acid. Now, Acid, you need a water, and that could be ran with Monarchs using Mobius. Yeah, I believe Mobius. So they could pull out Acid, destroy your opponent's back row, they lose 300, and then maybe be able to make a decent play. Where they can maybe OTK, same way with Mermails on them. But I feel Monarchs would definitely benefit, because then they could go into a Mega Monarch overlay for a Divine Dragonite maybe. Or maybe some other rank 8 that would allow them to put a decent amount of damage on board after destroying all that back row. So I feel if Mass Change Second could become a really decent tech, a lot of people want. It all depends on whether or not Konami's going to pull out more masked heroes that have a decent effect that could be ran with other cards. He opens up OTK, he just takes control of the grave, or steals the grave away from your opponent. So these are two really decent effects in the meta. Tell me what you guys think about this, if there was any other deck that you felt I missed, and yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. If there's any other cards that you think is going to become really meta. Oh, yeah, Ragnar Zero. Ragnar Zero is going to become meta. Kind of because it screws over Fusions and Madolches, because Fusions are tanky on the field and Madolches up so you can just get rid of anything. Pretty much and allow you to draw. Ragnar Zero is a really decent card. That's going to become a generic and a staple in the X deck. So yeah, tell me if there's any other cards you felt I missed that I really didn't go over. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Bye.